Welcome to People. I'm Shirley Lin. Today I have a very special person in the studio with me. He is Aaron Berg, a cancer survivor and a triathlete. Well, I want to say a triathlete winner, champion, because he's won so many times. Anyway, let's welcome him. Hi, Aaron.
Thank you, Shirley. Nice to be on the show.
All right. Well, first of all, Aaron is from America. Where exactly?
My family's from Houston, Texas.
Ah, Texas. Okay. And but he's been here since 1997. Am I right?
That's correct.
That's right. And has been living here ever since then in Taiwan with his family of 4 children. Okay. So you love kids. Well,
I do.
I want to say actually it probably started with your parents because you're from a family of 6 siblings, including yourself.
Yes, we do come from a pretty big family, and we've had even as a little kid, I had 4 older brothers, and I was the 5th boy. And after that, my younger sister. So we've had a lot of fun as a family.
Yes, I know, because I understand that your parents were very into charitable work and everything, bringing the whole family around and putting on these charity shows, like dressing you up as clowns, and either you sing or dance on stage and things like that. I don't think that's common here in Taiwan, to have a whole family travel around, actually from country to country for that matter, and just doing all this charitable work to encourage people, whether it's the sick or the poor or whatever. That kind of mentality that your parents have, I mean, that's amazing. It's all passed on down to you and your family.
Well, Shirley, my parents were actually Christian missionaries, and growing up we had a very strong value system, family values, and Christian values that about helping other people. So that was very much impressed upon me as a young child. And as I grew older, I also wanted to do things for others as much as I could.
Yeah, I've seen pictures because Aaron just came out with a book, and we'll talk about that later. But I've seen how you were all dressed up, the boys and the girls on stage and doing your act and everything, and you dressed as a clown. Now, what brought you here to Taiwan, and how you've ended up staying all this time? And I know you've fallen in love with Taiwan, just like a lot of foreigners too.
Yes. Well, actually, I've been living even longer in Asia in general. I've lived in Hong Kong, Macau, Japan, and traveled around extensively. And I think I came from Japan to Taiwan. At the time, my brother was staying here, and he told me, "Oh, you should really come and check Taiwan out." He said it's a very different place, very unique. And I said, "No, I'm pretty good here in Japan right now."
I know, you actually was very comfortable in Japan already.
But I said, "Okay, I'll try it out." And right at that time, there was an opportunity for me to come to Taiwan.
Oh yeah, doing what? Can you?
Well, because I was also doing a lot of volunteer work, even at that time, youth counseling, working with charity organizations to organize shows for underprivileged children, for example, handicapped children or children in refugee centers. Not long after we were living in Taiwan, there was also the 9/21 earthquake, which displaced a lot of people, and we were also refugees amongst them. So God seemed to have had me just in the right place at the right time to help those in need. And from my childhood, learning how to perform and learning how to put on a show and make people happy. That was the way that I preferred to spread cheer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I think you got so engrossed in your work and everything that you were not realizing that you were hurting your health. So can you talk a bit about what actually happened?
Well, I also was doing some business in Taiwan with consulting and different, how should I say, Oh, well, I was working with some companies with product development and like marketing and sales and stuff internationally, and that along with my other work and my children and everything, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. At one point, I remember being very, very just weighed down by all that I was responsible for, and I guess I really didn't know that much about health, really, to be able to have a good knowledge base about what I should be doing to take care of myself. I guess I was a lot like your average Joe, just trying to support his family, trying to do good works at the same time, trying to do whatever I could, but I just didn't really take care of myself very well. I was also doing some minimal exercise, but I was more into bodybuilding, and that I found out later wasn't actually that good for me. So without the aerobic type of exercise, I was actually damaging my body quite a bit.
So then you actually went to the doctors and discovered that you've got one of the most vicious kind of cancer. Can you, I can't say that terminology, I'm going to leave it up to you. What kind of melanoma or whatever, but the word before that, well, I don't know.
What I was diagnosed with is metastatic melanoma.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. and what is that, briefly?
It's melanoma, which is a form of skin cancer, which is the most aggressive kind of cancer cell that there is, or that's what they say anyway. And a lot of young males, white Caucasian males, do get skin cancer. When they discovered it, originally I had a small mole on the back of my neck, and it became irritable. It would itch, and I'd scratch it. It would bleed. It grew very quickly, and it was a nuisance. So I had the mole removed, and at the time I didn't know anything about melanoma or even the risks involved, and but the mole was taken for a pathology report and tested, and they said, "Oh, it's okay. It's non-malignant." And I thought that was the end of it.
Oh, really? They first said it was non-malignant?
Yes. And then by and by, 1.5 years later, I got a lump in my neck. It started growing from a very small little lump here, and it started growing a little bit bigger until it was about 3 centimeters big. And sticking out a little bit. It became awkward to shave around and stuff. And so, of course, I went to get it checked. And they performed I was admitted into a hospital, performed a biopsy, and then when the report came back, I was very shocked and surprised that they had found metastatic melanoma. Now, the word metastatic in front of that melanoma is that it's not the original cancer site. The cancer cells that they found were already spread. So the cancer was already spreading, and traditionally, once it has spread to several other sites, either through the lymph system or something like that, then it's considered stage 3. And unfortunately, that's the stage where I was diagnosed, was stage 3 metastatic melanoma. And the chances for survival, I was later to find out, although the doctors did not have a lot of information for me at that point, because there are not many melanoma specialists in Taiwan.
Oh,
it's not a very common type of cancer here in Taiwan.
Right.
But I was to find out that the survival rate for those with my type of cancer and the stage that it was in is less than 14%. 14% survive the first year.
Oh, wow.
So I was looking at, when I found that out, it was like a death sentence.
Yeah.
You've got a year left, if that.
Right.
Being a father, of 4 kids.
4 kids.
My youngest child was still a baby.
Right, just like 6 months old or something.
She was just 6 months old, and I can remember one of the times when I was in hospital for one of my surgeries. My little daughter also had a skin allergy that turned into an infection, and she was also admitted into a hospital. She was so my wife was taking care of her in another hospital while I was in another hospital nearby. It just seemed so much for one family to go through. It was a very, very difficult time.
Right.
I can definitely say that.
Now, besides your faith, what kept you through all this? Because, I mean, discovering what you got was devastating, but then to go through something like 3 or 4 or even more surgeries, and then you were totally weakened with all this, and then, like you were saying, your wife had to take care of a child in another hospital, and you're kind of like out of support, because your closest partner is not even right by you.
Yes.
What kept you through besides your faith? I mean, really, I mean, having discovered it at stage 3, that literally meant, like you said, a death sentence.
Yes, when you talk about the difficulties of having cancer, there's so much more involved than just being sick. There's a whole mixture of difficulties that are all rolled up into the experience. For example, financial pressure. The weight of which is enough to crush any man, especially a young father with a family, and then there's a family issues, the uncertainty. I think was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Then the physical difficulties along with it. I think one of the things that definitely helped me was wanting to survive for my kids' sake, and wanting to be there for them as much as possible. But even that wasn't really enough to pull me out of the depression that I later began to experience, which was also a result of the treatments that I was taking.
Right.
In the end, the thing that really pulled me out of it, when I was at the lowest stage of my life with very little hopes of surviving, my body had been reduced to an invalid. I could no longer even climb the flights of stairs in my house.
Yeah.
I was seldom ever able to go out, and just almost ready to die. I was really almost ready to just give up. And at that point, I did ask God for a miracle. I said, I need some way out. And I had the strangest idea. I had a picture of a triathlon, of triathletes competing in a triathlon. And this is something that should have been the furthest thing from my mind.
Yeah.
I'd seen them on TV maybe a long time ago, and I really didn't know the first thing about triathlons or anything. But all of a sudden, I had this desire that I should do that. And at first I thought I was crazy. I thought God was crazy for giving me this idea. I said, God, are you crazy? I can't even walk up the stairs in my house, and you're saying I can do a triathlon? And when I prayed further about it, I said, God, is this really you talking to me? Are you trying to tell me something? And then he told me something.
Yeah? I mean,
He
through
said,
somebody, right? In a dream?
No. I heard his voice in my heart. It was like how you remember. When God brings something to your memory, you remember something. It was a verse that I'd heard many, many years ago and was familiar with. It says, if you believe, all things can be possible. And that day I determined that I was going to be a triathlete, and I was going to complete a triathlon. And that hope, that goal, that desire became the strongest thing motivating me to get through and to accomplish what I did.
Wow, that is just amazing. Well, we're going to hear more about Aaron's story, the fact that all this that happened to him, he actually wrote a book about it, and also how he got involved into something that he found that became his focus in life, and that's live right. We're going to find out all about this, but first let's take a break. Welcome back to People. I'm Shirley Lin. My guest, Aaron Berg, is a cancer survivor and a triathlete. And because he went through so much in life that he's come up with a book. And it's called It's Your Life. In fact, it's right here. So, Aaron, what made you decide to write this book? I mean, I know you went through a lot, but I could never picture myself writing a book because it's a lot of work too. But obviously, part of it, I'm sure you're thinking about sharing your life with other people so that you can make a difference in other people's lives.
Yes, when after I had cancer and was able to recover with the goal of becoming a triathlete, it's a very ambitious goal. Most people thought I was crazy, including some doctors. Given my chances for survival and my health conditions at the time.
Can I interrupt a bit here?
Sure.
When you thought about or dreaming of becoming a triathlete, were you still in the hospital, recovering?
No, I was at home.
At home.
Because I was doing my immunotherapy treatments at home, which was injections that I had to inject myself with, 3 injections at a time. At home, I had to lock the door, and it made your body so sick with a high fever and chills and shaking for 5 hours, and then incredible nausea and whole body aching for about 3 days. Almost recover, and then time for the next round of shots. Week in, week out for 3 months. Until my body was just all my muscles had atrophy, muscle atrophy, which means they shriveled up. So I hardly had any muscles. That's why I couldn't climb the stairs or walk around very well at all.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So anyway, so you were saying that even the doctors would thought you crazy that you wanted to become a triathlete.
Yeah. Well, I knew that if I was going to survive, I had to do something drastic. But this idea of becoming a triathlete and not just surviving, but having better health, better strength and stamina than I ever had or even thought of having before, it meant that I had to learn. I had to go back. I had to start studying everything I could about health and fitness and training, and it gave me that desire and persistence to get out the door.
That was good.
To get out the door, even when I did not feel like it, but to start pushing myself. I learned how to cleanse my body from the inside out through juice fasting, through proper diet, and I learned how to train. I learned how to push myself past my limits, and then the amazing thing was that I saw my body respond. And when I saw my body start to respond to the things that I was doing, it was such a motivator, and it really helped me. So by and by, actually from the day that I decided to become a triathlete, I was nearly an invalid at that time until the first competition that I entered was 1 year and about 3 months.
Wow, you prepared yourself only for a year and 3 months.
And that just showed that the way that I was doing
exercise,
the things that I was doing were really working.
Right.
The first time that I competed, I almost qualified for a trophy. The first time.
The first time.
The first time.
Wow. So you came in
I came
place?
in 11th place.
Okay.
and the placings, the trophies went up to like the 10th place or something. I was like, oh, just almost. I could have got so close. But, so, of course, that was a great motivation to keep me going, to keep me, and a couple of years later, I did start to get trophies at all of these events. And it really was something for me. I did it for me, to survive and for my family.
Yeah.
But after becoming quite successful at it, and some news got around to media or some friends.
Even abroad?
Started, huh?
Even abroad?
A little, a little.
Okay.
Then I started to realize, because so many other people with cancer started to try and contact me and ask me for help or advice, and it just seemed like for a while that almost every person I met was connected to a cancer case somehow, and I had no idea that cancer was such a prevalent problem. When you're healthy, you don't think about it very much. Cancer was the last thing on my mind. But after that point, it just seemed like so many people needed help and were wanting to know about my experience. So since then, in the years that followed, yes, I continued on as a triathlete, and I have won a lot of different competitions, or I place well at generally all the competitions that I've entered, and I've been very happy that God has not only helped me to regain my strength, but many times over what I used to have, and also He's also given me a way to help other people. Because a personal experience and a personal testimony is very powerful.
Sure.
But it wasn't until so many people started asking me for help that I began to go back and really try to see exactly what it was and how it was that I did it, and turn it into something that I could share with other people.
And therefore the book.
And through these through the years since then, I've continued to fine-tune this health program. I could call it a program which I named Live Right, which is the name of my team, my sports team. Yep. And it stands for 5 rights, which I've come to understand as the 5 main topics for our health.
Right.
And
what are they?
They are eat right, exercise right, sleep right, think right, and speak right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, many health programs are particularly focused on the first 3.
Okay.
But not so many health programs will discuss the latter 2.
Right.
But I've found that you can't really have well-rounded health unless you look at it from a holistic approach, and thereby you can find the balance of life.
And talking about holistic, well, earlier on, Aaron actually demonstrated what he meant by living holistically, right? And so let's watch that video.
Before, when I used to think about the balance of life or hear this term, I often pictured a set of balances with one factor weighing against the other. It's kind of hard to wonder which 2 factors are the most important in one's life. And I think that life is much more complicated than just 2 factors being weighed one against another. One day while I was discussing this topic with a friend of mine, I had a thought. A picture came to me. It was like a new concept. And that was that life is much more like a bicycle wheel. Now, the bicycle wheel is the construction of it is very interesting. I'll just explain a couple little details first. The center of the bicycle wheel is the hub, of course, where the ball bearings are, and everything turns around that. Going out from there are spokes, and the spokes are connected to the rim by a very small little screw, and that screw is called a nipple. Now, when these nipples become loosened, if one of them becomes loosened, then the wheel gets out of alignment. And instead of a very smooth, straight rolling, we'll have something like this wheel over here, which is out of alignment right now. And you see, there's a very bad wobble to it. One of the things that's bad about having a wobble in your wheel is that the bicycle's brakes are gripping on the side of the wheel. And if the wheel is wobbling, it'll be continuously rubbing on the brake shoes on both sides. So it'll be causing friction and wasting a lot of energy instead of rolling smoothly. Now, a lot of things in our lives are like the spoke. The many different factors of our life are like the spoke. And when you look at your life holistically with a broader picture, there are so many factors like financial factors, family issues, your health, your diet, your spiritual input, your mental health. There's so many things that can affect our lives one way or the other. And I found that by having a well-balanced life, or using this illustration to look at my life from a broader perspective, it really helps me to know, okay, my diet hasn't been quite right this week, so next week I'm gonna add a little bit more to it, or I haven't exercised quite enough. The concept of live right is a holistic health approach, and that's what we're talking about.
Wow, what I just learned from that demonstration, I realized that, well, actually it made me think about how my husband, he's on the heavy side, and he likes eating. So he tends to think that, well, obviously people tell him that it's important to exercise, and then there are other people who tell him to, keep a healthy diet and not eat so much. And because he likes eating, so he does more on exercise. But listening to what you were just saying, actually really need to have a balance, right? Both exercise and eating, the diet. So it can't be just more on one and not the other. So I think that's what I learned from you. Now, talking about live right, what are the principles behind live right and these 5 rights? Or is that what they are? Yeah.
Live right is really a campaign to promote an active lifestyle. Active, healthy, and that means active physically, spiritually, mentally. I want to challenge people.
Please do.
I want to challenge people that, most of you don't even know the potential of your body and your spirit. You don't know the potential of your body because you haven't really pushed yourself past what you deem as your physical limits.
Uh-huh.
We are so afraid to move past what's called a comfort zone.
Because we're afraid of pain.
Yes, well, the thing that I learned from my experience was that the harder I pushed myself, safely, of course,
yeah,
and knowledgeably, but the harder I pushed myself, the more I asked from my body, the faster and the stronger the response was back to me in healing, in creating energy and a vitality that I would never have dreamed of possible. So, you really just don't know how good it can feel and how fantastic it can be to be in really great health and to have all the energy you need and to not be worried about being sick, not be worried about that big cancer word or problems with so many of the sicknesses and ailments. Instead of just shutting up the body's warning system by taking painkillers or taking medication that gets rid of the symptoms of sickness, go for the real core of the problem. Health comes from the inside out. It's not something that you can take a pill for or read a book and then that's it. It has to be a life change. So my goal is to help people find that life change.
All right. Well, I'm sure you're teaching all this to your family and your children. How are they
Yes.
taking all this? I mean, their dad having gone through so much and they've seen it all, they went through it all. I'm sure they're proud to have a daddy like you, but what have they learned from you, and what was their reaction, and how do you see your kids growing now with this mentality?
That's a very interesting point. Well, actually, when I was going through my cancer ordeal, most of them were quite young, and they don't remember so many of the details, you know. But as they've grown older, and I've helped them to realize or understand the values of a healthy lifestyle, of an active lifestyle, it's definitely influenced them. You know, my two sons are also now triathletes and
Wow.
compete with me. And
How old
in
are they
different,
now?
Well, my two sons are 17 and 14, and I have a daughter who's 16 and another daughter who's 10, and they're all quite active, leading hopefully very healthy lives. I hope that these are life habits and things that will influence them all the way through their adult lives.
And I'm sure that you're most thankful to your wife, who's always been by your side.
Well,
she's a strong woman.
I could say that cancer was probably more difficult for her than it was for me.
I understand what you mean.
She brought me through so much, and her support and help has been a real motivating factor in my life. You can definitely say that.
All right.
Yes, she deserves a lot of credit.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Aaron. It's been wonderful hearing your story. And I want to recommend everybody read your book. Okay, it's
Yes.
Your Life.
It's Your Life. It is published in Chinese
Right.
now. It's called 生命在握. Your Life in Your Hands.
That's right. It's in Chinese.
The English international publishing hopefully will be coming soon.
All right. We're all going to be looking forward to that. Thanks again, Aaron.
All right.
And thank you for watching, people. I'm Shirley Lin.